You want to know how one human accidentally became the most feared name in 12 sectors? How pirates now run background checks before raiding anything, just to make sure there are no humans aboard? Well, grab a drink and settle in, because this is the story of Marcus Kane, the man who broke the galaxy's most notorious pirate crew without firing a single shot. It started on mining station Echo 7, a rust bucket of a facility orbiting a gas giant nobody cared about. The kind of place where excitement meant the coffee dispenser worked 2 days in a row. Most folks there were either hiding from something or too boring to hide from anything. Marcus Kane fell into the second category. Picture your most aggressively normal neighbor. The guy who waves every morning, remembers your birthday, and somehow always has the right tool for any job. Now put him in space coveralls and give him an engineering degree. That's Marcus. Mid-40s, graying hair, and the kind of smile that made you feel guilty for not recycling properly. On the day everything went sideways, Marcus was doing what he always did, fixing things that didn't need fixing and humming off-key while he worked. The station's early warning system started screaming about incoming ships, and everyone else ran around like caffeinated squirrels. Marcus just kept adjusting the atmospheric recycler, because apparently proper air filtration waits for no pirate raid. The Crimson Fang raiders had been terrorizing this sector for 3 years. Their reputation preceded them like a bad smell. Captain Vex Grimtooth, a 7-foot-tall Zephyrian with more scars than sense, led a crew of the galaxy's most wanted. They specialized in creative intimidation, elaborate torture, and leaving survivors just traumatized enough to spread stories about how scary they were. When the station administrator burst into the maintenance bay, sweat pouring down his blue Centauri skin, he found Marcus calmly sipping coffee while comparing wrench sizes. "Marcus, the Crimson Fang is here. We need to evacuate." Marcus looked up from his tools. "Oh, that's today? I thought they were coming next week." "Well, that explains the traffic." "Traffic? Traffic? They're here to kill us all." "Probably not all of us," Marcus said reasonably. "Bad for business. Pirates need survivors to spread their reputation. It's basic marketing." The administrator stared at him like he'd grown a second head, which in this sector wasn't entirely impossible. Outside, the station shuddered as docking clamps engaged with the enthusiasm of someone parallel parking a battleship. Marcus finished his coffee, rinsed the cup, and put it back in its designated spot. Because if civilization was ending, at least the kitchen could stay organized. The Crimson Fang raiders burst through the airlock with all the subtlety of a supernova at a library. Captain Vex Grimtooth strode in first, his forearms spread wide, displaying enough weaponry to level a small city. His crew followed, a delightful collection of scales, tentacles, and aggressive attitudes. "Citizens of this pathetic station," Grimtooth's voice boomed through his helmet's speakers. "You are now prisoners of the Crimson Fang. Resist and face torment beyond your worst nightmares. Submit and face only mild torment." The assembled station personnel cowered appropriately, except for Marcus, who raised his hand like he was in a classroom. "Excuse me, Captain Grimtooth. Is it Captain, or do you prefer something else?" "I don't want to be rude." Grimtooth's 4 red eyes focused on this strange human who was apparently immune to basic intimidation. You will address me as your new master, human scum." "Right, Master Grimtooth it is. Quick question, though. That docking maneuver was really smooth. Are you using gyroscopic stabilizers or just really good at eyeballing it? Because I've been working on our docking systems and could use some pointers." The captain's second-in-command, a insectoid creature called Buzzcut, whispered urgently in Grimtooth's ear. "Captain, should we shoot him now or wait?" What? Grimtooth was experiencing the unique confusion that came from expecting terror and getting a technical discussion instead. Marcus continued, oblivious to the danger. "Also, I couldn't help but notice your engine signatures on approach. Beautiful work. Are those Mark 7 plasma drives? The harmonic resonance was just perfect." By now, the other prisoners were staring at Marcus like he'd lost his mind. There was Pip, a small Rigelian trader who was quietly calculating his odds of survival, and Torga, a massive Ursinian mechanic who looked ready to use Marcus as a human shield if necessary. "Silence!" Grimtooth finally roared. "You will all come with us. Any resistance will be met with immediate vaporization." Oh, absolutely. Marcus nodded agreeably. Should I bring anything? Change of clothes, maybe? I've got some snacks in my quarters if anyone gets hungry during the trip. The raiders exchanged glances. In their long careers of kidnapping and terror, nobody had ever asked about the refreshment situation. As they were herded toward the raider ship, Marcus struck up a conversation with his guard, a lizard-like saurian named Spike. So, Spike, how long have you been with the Crimson Fang? The benefits package must be pretty good to attract talent like this crew. Benefits? Spike's forked tongue flicked out in confusion. We're pirates. We take what we want. Sure, but what about health insurance, retirement plans? It's dangerous work. You must have some kind of compensation package. Compensation package? Compensation package? You know, dental coverage, vacation time, maybe some stock options. I mean, I assume you guys have profit sharing at least. Poor Spike had never had an existential crisis about his career choices before. It was not a comfortable feeling. The Crimson Fang's ship was everything you'd expect from Galaxy-class villains. Dark corridors, ominous red lighting, and enough skulls decorating the walls to stock a small medical school. Marcus admired the craftsmanship. Wow, is this real Corvanian bonework? The detail is incredible. My wife would love this style. She's really into interior decorating. Your wife? Buzzcut buzzed nervously. Oh yeah, Janet. She's back on Earth visiting her sister. I should probably call her and let her know I'll be late for dinner. Do you guys have long-range communications? I don't want her to worry. The raiders were beginning to realize that kidnapping humans might not be as straightforward as their training manual suggested. The Crimson Fang's fortress was an asteroid hollowed out into a maze of cells, torture chambers, and what the pirates proudly called their Museum of Screams. Chief Torturer Snick, a blob-like creature with too many eyes and an unhealthy enthusiasm for his job, had been preparing for weeks to break their new human captive. Finally! Snick bubbled excitedly as Marcus was brought to the torture chambers. A human. Do you know how long I've wanted to study human pain responses? Your species has such interesting nerve clusters. Marcus looked around the chamber with genuine interest. The walls were lined with implements of terror from a dozen different worlds. Pain amplifiers hummed ominously in the corners, and the floor was stained with what was definitely not tomato sauce. This is fascinating, Marcus said, examining a Rigelian agony probe. The biofeedback mechanisms must be incredibly sophisticated. How do you prevent permanent nerve damage while maintaining the psychological impact? Snick paused mid-gloat. What? The torture, I mean. You want to maximize fear without actually damaging the subject's ability to spread your reputation, right? It's a delicate balance. Very impressive setup you've got here. Other prisoners in nearby cells were watching through the bars, waiting for the screaming to start. Instead, they got a technical discussion on torture methodology. Well, Snick said, somewhat thrown off his rhythm. Let's start with something simple. The Zentorian mind probe. He produced a device that looked like a chrome octopus having a bad day. When activated, it was supposed to create the sensation of having your brain slowly dissolved in acid. Marcus held still while Snick attached the probe. Okay, hit me. The device hummed to life. Marcus's expression went thoughtful. He said after a moment. That's actually kind of relaxing. It's like a deep tissue massage, but for your thoughts. Do you have different intensity settings? Snick's eye stalks drooped. Relaxing, but it's supposed to feel like your consciousness is being shredded. Maybe it works differently on human neurology. Oh, try the next setting up. This might work out some stress knots I've had since the quarterly reports. Word spread through the fortress that the human was broken already, or possibly insane. Neither option was particularly satisfying for a crew that took pride in their breaking technique. Next came the thermal agony chamber, designed to alternate between freezing and scorching temperatures. Oh, this is nice, Marcus said as the temperature dropped to Arctic levels. Reminds me of Minnesota winters. My dad used to take us ice fishing when I was a kid. When the heat kicked in, he just loosened his collar. Now this is like Phoenix in July. You know, if you modulated the temperature changes a bit slower, this would make an excellent sauna. Snick was starting to panic. His reputation as the sector's most feared torturer was on the line. "The sonic screamer," he declared, producing a device that emitted sound frequencies designed to drive victims insane. Marcus listened for a few seconds. "Is that supposed to be music? It's very avant-garde. Reminds me of my nephew's garage band, but with better production values." By now, other pirates were gathering to watch the show. Captain Grimtooth arrived just as Snick was having a nervous breakdown. "What's the status report?" Grimtooth demanded. He likes everything," Snick wailed. "The pain amplifiers tickle him. He asked if we had any hot sauce for the poison dart treatment, and he wants to know if we have a recipe for whatever we use in the venom bath because it smells delicious." Marcus waved cheerfully at Grimtooth. "Hey, Captain, Snick here has been showing me around your facility. Really impressive work. I was wondering, though, do you guys have anything actually challenging? This has been fun, but I'm starting to feel bad that Snick is working so hard for such mild results." Grimtooth's left eye began to twitch. In 30 years of piracy, he'd never encountered a problem that couldn't be solved with more intimidation. Marcus Kane was proving to be a very educational experience. 3 days into Marcus's captivity, the Crimson Fang Raiders were experiencing what management consultants would politely call workflow disruption. It started when Marcus noticed their life support system was running at 60% efficiency. "You know," he mentioned to his guard during meal delivery, "if you cleaned those air scrubbers and recalibrated the oxygen mixture, you could probably cut your operating costs by 30%. Operating costs? The guard, a young Dreknari named Zorp, had never heard these words in the same sentence before. "Sure, I mean you're basically running a business, right? Income versus expenses, profit margins, that sort of thing. Better efficiency means more profit for everyone." Zorp had to sit down. The concept of pirates having profit margins was giving him a headache. By day 4, Marcus had somehow gotten out of his cell and was wandering the fortress offering helpful suggestions. Nobody could quite remember letting him out, but he seemed harmless enough, and he'd fixed the chronic squeak in the main corridor door that had been driving everyone insane for months. "Marcus," Captain Grimtooth cornered him near the weapons locker. "What exactly are you doing?" "Oh, hi, Captain. I was just looking at your plasma cannon array. Beautiful work. But I think your power coupling is creating a feedback loop that's reducing your effective range by about 15%. Want me to take a look? You want to fix our weapons? Well, only if you want them to work better. No pressure." Grimtooth found himself nodding before he realized what he was doing. 20 minutes later, their main cannon was firing at optimal efficiency for the first time in 3 years. The psychological warfare began innocently enough. Marcus started asking the pirates about their career satisfaction. "So, Buzzcut," he said during dinner, "what got you into piracy?" "I needed money for my sister's medical treatments," Buzzcut replied without thinking. "That's really sweet of you. Is she doing better now?" "Well, no. The treatments didn't work and she died 2 years ago." Marcus's face fell. "Oh, I'm so sorry. That must have been incredibly hard." And just like that, Buzzcut was crying into his nutritional paste, talking about how he'd never gotten to tell his sister he loved her before she died. Similar conversations sprouted across the fortress. Spike revealed he'd become a pirate because his home planet's economy had collapsed. Torque admitted he just wanted to feel important after a lifetime of being ignored. Snick confessed that he'd gotten into torture because he was terrible at regular conversation, and causing pain was the only way he knew how to make people pay attention to him. Within a week, Marcus had accidentally started group therapy sessions. Pirates who'd spent years bottling up their feelings were suddenly discussing childhood trauma and relationship issues. "I never wanted to be a pirate," Zorp sobbed during one particularly emotional evening. "I wanted to be a teacher." "You'd make a great teacher," Marcus said encouragingly. "You're patient, you're good at explaining things, and you really listen when people talk. Have you thought about online education? You could start teaching part-time while you figure out your next steps." Captain Grimtooth watched his fearsome crew transform into something resembling a support group and felt his grip on sanity starting to slip. The breaking point came when Marcus organized a talent show. Come on, everyone's got hidden talents, he insisted. Spike, you mentioned you write poetry. Torque, you used to be in a band. This could be fun. Somehow, he convinced them to participate. Spike performed a surprisingly moving piece about the loneliness of space travel. Torque played acoustic guitar and had a voice like warm honey. Even Snick got up and did a surprisingly good stand-up routine about the challenges of professional torture. The audience of murderous pirates applauded enthusiastically. They were having fun, actual, genuine fun. What have you done to my crew? Grimtooth demanded, finding Marcus after the show. I don't know what you mean, Captain. Everyone just needed a chance to express themselves creatively. You should try it sometime. I bet you've got some interesting stories from your travels. I'm a feared pirate, Captain. I don't have stories, I have a reign of terror. Marcus looked at him with genuine sympathy. That sounds exhausting. How long has it been since you've done something just because you enjoyed it? And that was when Captain Vex Grimtooth, Scourge of 12 Sectors, sat down and started crying like a lost child. The escape plan began in Cell Block C when Pip the Rigelian traitor started sketching blueprints on the wall with a smuggled piece of charcoal. Okay, listen carefully, Pip whispered to the other prisoners. The guard rotation changes every 6 hours. If we can create a distraction during the shift change, we might be able to overpower them and reach the hangar bay. Torga the Ursinian nodded grimly. I can take out 2, maybe 3 guards if I get the element of surprise. And then what? Asked Vera, a human merchant who'd been captured 3 days earlier. We steal a ship and hope we can outrun their entire fleet? It's better than staying here? Pip insisted. From his corner, Marcus looked up from the technical manual he was reading. Somehow he'd convinced the guards to let him borrow it from their library. Or, Marcus suggested mildly, we could just ask nicely to leave. The other prisoners stared at him like he'd suggested they flap their arms and fly home. Ask nicely? Pip's voice cracked. They're pirates, Marcus, bloodthirsty criminals. You can't just ask pirates to let you go. Why not? They seem reasonable enough. Most of them are just working through some personal issues. Before anyone could argue further, the sound of raised voices echoed through the corridor. But instead of the usual pirate shouting, it sounded like an argument about work schedules. I'm telling you, Buzzcut, rotating shifts would improve morale and reduce burnout. But Captain Grimtooth says we need to maintain traditional pirate discipline. When was the last time you saw Captain Grimtooth? He's been locked in his quarters for 2 days crying about his life choices. The cell door wasn't even locked anymore. Marcus had pointed out that the electronic locks were consuming unnecessary power, and somehow the guards had just started leaving them open. Trust-based incarceration, Marcus had called it. Marcus wandered out into the corridor where half the pirate crew was gathered in what appeared to be an impromptu staff meeting. Hey guys, what's going on? Marcus! Zorp waved enthusiastically. We're discussing implementing a 4-day work week. Studies show it increases productivity and job satisfaction. That sounds great. How's Captain Grimtooth taking the suggestions? He's processing, Spike said diplomatically. A alarm klaxon suddenly blared through the station. Red lights flashed as an automated voice announced, "Unknown ships approaching. All hands to battle stations." Through the fortress's main viewport, they could see 3 massive vessels approaching. The Skullcrusher fleet, led by Captain Morgarth the Merciless, second only to the Crimson Fang in terms of galactic infamy. Oh no, Snick bubbled nervously. They must be here to challenge our territory. This means war. The pirates ran around in panic, trying to remember where they'd put their weapons and wondering if their insurance covered space battles. Marcus walked calmly to the communications console and opened a channel. Hello, this is Marcus Kane speaking for the Crimson Fang organization. How can I help you today? Captain Morgarth's voice crackled through the speakers, full of menace and bad intentions. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. We've come to claim this sector. I understand your position, Marcus replied reasonably, but I wonder if we might discuss this situation like adults. What are your underlying concerns here? Are you looking for new territory, resources, or is this more about establishing dominance in the region? There was a long pause. What? I I'm just trying to understand your core needs so we can find a solution that works for everyone. Have you considered the benefits of cooperation versus conflict? The overhead costs of warfare are really quite substantial when you factor in ship maintenance, ammunition, medical expenses for injured crew members. Are you trying to negotiate with me? I'm trying to help you make an informed decision. For instance, did you know that the Crimson Fang has recently restructured into more of a mutual aid society? We're focusing on community building and personal growth rather than traditional piracy. There might be opportunities for collaboration. Captain Grimtooth chose that moment to emerge from his quarters, looking haggard and confused. What's happening? Why is everyone being so reasonable? Marcus is handling the Skull Crusher situation, Buzzcut explained. The Skull Crushers? They're here to destroy us. Actually, Marcus's voice came over the intercom. Captain Morgarth and I have been having a really productive conversation. Turns out his crew has been dealing with a lot of the same workplace satisfaction issues you guys were experiencing. I've invited them over for coffee and a discussion about alternative career paths. You invited them over? Well, they were going to attack anyway, so I figured we might as well try talking first. Morgarth mentioned that several of his crew members have been interested in starting a small business. Torque knows a lot about restaurant management, and Spike has some great ideas about creative writing workshops. And that's how the most anticipated space battle in sector history turned into an impromptu career counseling session, with Marcus Kane somehow mediating peace negotiations between two of the galaxy's most feared pirate crews, while serving refreshments and offering life advice. By the end of the day, both crews were making joint plans to convert their fortress into a rehabilitation center for reformed criminals. Marcus had become their unofficial therapist, life coach, and director of positive life changes. 6 months later, the former Crimson Fang fortress had been transformed into the Asteroid Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, a surprisingly successful therapeutic community for ex-pirates and reformed criminals from across the galaxy. Marcus Kane, now wearing a name tag that read, Director of Motivational Guidance, was leading a morning meditation session for 15 former raiders who were learning anger management techniques. Remember, he said in his calm, steady voice, when you feel the urge to pillage, take 3 deep breaths and ask yourself, what am I really looking for here? Connection? Purpose? A sense of belonging? Captain Grimtooth, now simply called Vex, raised one of his 4 hands. Marcus, what if the urge is really strong? Like, planet-destroying strong? That's when we use the buddy system, Vex. Call Spike or Torque, talk through your feelings. Maybe go for a nice walk around the asteroid. Remember, emotions are temporary, but restraining orders last for years. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Captain Morgarth now ran a successful anger management program for violent offenders. Buzzcut had opened a grief counseling service that was booked solid for months. Snick had discovered he had a natural talent for pediatric psychology and was working toward his certification in child therapy. The ripple effects had spread far beyond the rehabilitation center. Word of Marcus Kane had traveled through the pirate underground like wildfire, but not in the way you might expect. It's true, I swear on my mother's grave, whispered a draconian smuggler in a cantina on Epsilon Station. He took down the Crimson Fang without firing a shot. Just talked to them. Now they run a meditation retreat. I heard, added a nervous Zentaurian fence, that he can make you question your entire life just by asking how your day was going. My cousin's friend knew a guy who worked for the Skull Crushers. A third criminal chimed in. Said this human Kane fellow convinced the whole crew to start a pottery business. They make excellent vases now. The legend grew with each telling. Marcus Kane became the monster that pirates told scary stories about around their campfires. Raiders began running detailed background checks before hitting any target, just to make sure there weren't any humans named Marcus aboard. The Galactic Pirate Council, which hadn't met in 50 years, held an emergency session to discuss the Marcus Kane problem. They issued a formal advisory recommending that all pirate crews avoid humans with sympathetic facial expressions and reasonable speaking voices. Back at the rehabilitation center, Marcus was completely oblivious to his growing reputation. He was too busy helping Zorp prepare for his teaching certification and reviewing Torga's business plan for an interstellar food truck. His office, converted from what used to be Grimtooth's trophy room, was decorated with thank you cards from former pirates who'd found new careers. The walls were covered with photos from graduation ceremonies, weddings, and grand openings of legitimate businesses. A soft chime announced a visitor at the front desk. Marcus looked up from the application he was reviewing, a proposal from a reformed space bandit who wanted to start a nonprofit for orphaned aliens. "Mr. Kane?" The receptionist's voice came through the intercom. "There's someone here to see you. Says he's from the Void Reapers." Marcus smiled and stood up, straightening his world's okayest counselor tie that Spike had given him for his birthday. The Void Reapers were the third most feared pirate crew in the galaxy, known for their creative use of asteroid fields and their leader's collection of particularly intimidating skull masks. "Send them in," Marcus said cheerfully, "and put on some tea, would you? It's going to be a long day." As his office door opened to reveal a 7-foot-tall nightmare in spiked armor, Marcus Kane smiled his perfectly normal, aggressively helpful smile and extended his hand in greeting. "Hello, I'm Marcus. I understand you folks might be interested in exploring some alternative career paths." And somewhere in the dark corners of the galaxy, pirates shuddered and made sure their life insurance premiums were paid up, because Marcus Kane was still out there, armed with nothing but genuine human decency and an inexplicable ability to make hardened criminals question their life choices. The most terrifying weapon in the universe, it turned out, was someone who actually cared about your personal growth and wanted to help you become the best version of yourself. Galaxy-wide therapy, one pirate crew at a time. The universe would never be the same.